Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fifth edition of the My Kid Cures Cancer Thriver Stories and episode 30, 32 or 33 of the podcast. Now I can't quite keep it straight, but this is a really cool one for me. We have with us Angie, who I actually spoke with. Gosh, we were just talking. I think not a week or two after you got your diagnosis, your son's diagnosis, Angie, and you've been hitting it hard ever since, and it's been really neat to watch you guys come along, and I'm really excited to get to share your story with everyone. So that being said, Angie, do you want to just let everyone know maybe a little bit about yourself and your family pre-diagnosis? Kind of, were you already naturally inclined, or did you find out about all this stuff on the fly? And then maybe just talk about, the diagnosis itself, and kind of what were the red flags? How did you know something was wrong, and how did that progression go? That sort of thing.
Okay, great. Yeah, Cullen, I actually have 3 children. My daughter's 9, and then Cullen is a twin. Liam is his brother, and they are 4.5 now. And I started changing our diet and our health and our family back in 2014, about January of 2014. I read a book called The Unhealthy Truth by Robin O'Brien, and it talks about GMOs and just all the problems with our food system. And it just really got me going on what is healthy. And I thought I was so healthy, and then I realized that I wasn't eating that healthy. And so I just started researching a bunch online, watching documentaries, following food blogs and all this stuff. So I really changed our diet. We had green drinks, green smoothies every day. I started making everything from scratch, like just, everything I could. I was just in the kitchen all day long. The kitchen was a disaster. So I did this and the twins were 1. So it was pretty crazy. And I decided to continue breastfeeding for a whole another year. So I breastfed for 2 years, twins. And it was like a little stressful and crazy, but I was really into the health, just improving our health and being healthier. So then after about a year of that, Cullen was actually maybe almost 2 years of that. So 2 years of changing our health and our lifestyle. My son started, it was about Thanksgiving, November of 2015. He just had these like stomach pains, and it was around Thanksgiving, and then they would go away, and then they came back, and then go away. And then it was just like a weekend, and we thought nothing of it. But then December, he fell out of a golf cart randomly. It was parked, but he fell out, and yeah, it was parked. But he fell, and he seemed like he was fine. But then about, I would say like a week later, his stomach started getting bigger, and we thought he was almost 3. So it was like 2 and 11 months or 10 months. And that's about the time when some boys start like kind of holding it in, and so we thought he was having bowel issues and stuff. And so we thought, and he had just started preschool recently, so I wasn't really monitoring everything that was coming in and out all the time. And so I didn't realize that he was going fine and everything. So we thought it was that. And then his stomach just kept growing and growing, and it was getting really large. And we took him to the pediatrician, and she thought it was bowel issues. They even did a x-ray. And by then, I mean, his stomach was really large, and they did not see a tumor in vitro. Like, I don't know how the pediatrician didn't see it. I don't know how the radiologist didn't see it, but they completely were like, oh yeah, it's just bowel obstruction, give him Miralax, which I did not do. I was doing all the natural stuff. But he didn't even eat it. Like, he wasn't even blocked up. It wasn't even. So finally we took him back like a week. So a week and a half later, maybe not even that long, we took him back and said, there's something really wrong. He's just really large. So then we took him to the emergency room, and they, took an x-ray, and we're like, yeah, there's a huge tumor. And, I couldn't believe it, but they knew right away, and it was really large, and it just kept growing when we got there. So we got there on January, maybe like 16th or something. And then within a week, he had like a few days later, like 2 days later, he had a biopsy. And then 3 days later, they wanted to start chemo. And then, so that Friday night, he comes in and says, like, he definitely has rhabdo. We have to start chemo right away. This is the program. And I, of course, was like, no, I'm not doing chemo. I want alternative therapies. I'm not comfortable with this. Like, it's not happening. I was like, what about this? What about that? And he was like, we don't offer any of that here. You can't get any of that here. It's not, and I don't, and he never really said like, it doesn't help or anything. He just was just like, we can't offer that for you. And then you can't leave because you have to do this. Like, you don't have an option. And so I was like, okay. But plus my son was, he couldn't leave. He was enormous. He had, what's it called? When you're like in flames lower, the tumor was so large that it was blocking the fluid. So he was getting like huge legs, and I can't think of the word now, what that's called. I'm sorry.
But edema?
Yes. Edema.
Yeah.
He was getting edema all down because the tumor was so large, it was blocking everything. So he couldn't even sit in a seatbelt. Like, we were not taking him from the hospital. So he did start chemo the very next day after like the diagnosis was Friday. He started on Saturday.
Wow.
I had already started calling, like by Wednesday, they were pretty sure it was a tumor. So I was already calling people, and I think I'd already talked to the connection that you and I have and gotten your name. And I had talked to some other people on the phone and started just ordering, herbs and things, like I was ordering a whole bunch of stuff. And just because I had already started researching some of it, just my mom has breast cancer, and was sort of tapping into like, what should she be doing, and trying to send her a few things, even though I wasn't like fully into it because she wasn't fully into it. So I was just kind of looking at a few things here and there. But so when that happened, I started to do all that, and then talk to you, and kept going, and was actually really trying hard to get him away from chemo completely in the beginning. But he really needed it and had to do it, for one. But I think with the size of the tumor, it was so large. It was probably like a small football size. And like I said, it was cutting off circulation, and it was, there was nothing else that was going to shrink it that quickly than chemo. So we did have to.
Yeah, no, there's certainly a time and a place. And that's, kind of what I'm hoping to, because I was like you at first too, didn't want anything to do with it. But, we did end up doing it. And looking back, maybe I would have liked to have done even less than we did, even though we did get him out of a significant portion of Ryder, my son, what he was supposed to have. But, maybe you could have done with less, but, same thing, life-threatening location, was about to paralyze him. I had all sorts of alternative people telling me to, run or go to Mexico or,
Right.
whatever. Yeah. I'm sure you did too, but at the end of the day, it's sometimes those things are really big and obstructing very important things, especially in a little kid where there's no like real estate, there's not a whole lot of spare room in there. So yeah, certainly. And so at this point, did you have a firm prognosis and percentages and what stage and all that stuff?
Yeah, it was 50-50. And the problem with he was diagnosed with rhabdomyosarcoma, and it's really rare. It's like 400 children a year get this. And they don't have a lot of research on it, even though it's been around obviously for a long time. They don't have a lot of studies for the children. So they didn't have a lot of that. They're kind of like, well, it's 50-50, but we don't and part of the problem was they couldn't tell where it was originating from. And actually they never found that out. So that was kind of one reason why I say that, this is the definite prognosis. They kept saying like, oh, if it will, once we finally figure out where it's from, it could have a higher rate of mortality. He would say it that way. I'm like, okay, well, can we just rephrase it a different way? But anyways, so yeah, but it was not, they never found out where it came from. So yeah, they said 50-50. And so it was kind of like, well, I'm flipping the coin anyway. Why can't I flip the coin with my decisions on alternative therapies and the things that I want to do? Why am I mandated to follow your program? And especially when you don't have enough research to be like, it's not like ALL or something where it's like they have this massive amount of research, massive amount of studies, and they know like this certain percentage survive and all that stuff. Like they don't have that type of research with this. So I felt like that gave us a little more leeway as to say, well, let us try some other things also.
Yeah. And it does in cases. I've heard of a lot of parents that had some crazy rare cancer and ended up, nobody could really definitively tell them what to do or if something was going to work. So they got a little more wiggle room there. But but all the same, as I know, even if you do end up having to go through whatever treatment, whatever whatever the prescription is, I guess you could say, it's not like you can't do what you feel is best on the side, and I know you were doing a lot of that.
I did. Go ahead. Do you?
No, yeah. I was just gonna say, just where was your research taking you? What were you trying to implement? How were you implementing it? Was it in the hospital? Were you inpatient and trying to do all this stuff, or you were back and forth, or just kind of what did Angie's and Cullen's holistic protocol look like?
Yeah, we did a lot. We started pretty much right away. I met with a naturopath in Sarasota, and he was willing to meet us right away. He has a daughter that's the same age, and he kind of understood where we were coming from. So he met us right away to do some testing on what would be good for him. And so we started, I think, that next weekend. So within like 2 or 3 weeks, we were already doing stuff. So I think the first thing maybe we did was vitamin C, high dose vitamin C. And it started out at like 6 grams. I think you went up to like 17 or 18 in the end. So
This
we started
was intravenous, correct?
intravenous, yeah, IV vitamin C. I need some other things, but we did that. And so in the beginning, we were doing like we'd go there for like a day, and we live 3 hours away from Sarasota, and we actually had to go to Orlando for chemo treatment, and that was 2 hours away. So I would drive 2 hours to Orlando for chemo, and then I would drive from Orlando, which is like another 2 hours to Sarasota, and then we'd have treatments there, and then we'd drive home. So we were gone like 4 days out of the week typically, or more, for treatments. As it got going, and we did hyperbaric chamber every day we were there. So we would stay there typically in Sarasota for like 3 days, and we do hyperbaric chamber 3 days in a row. And we do also this other thing called UVBI, ultraviolet blood irradiation, and it's really good for the immune system. Cullen did not get a sickness. Like once he started getting into the treatments, the natural alternative therapies, he wasn't sick after March. So he was diagnosed in January. By the end of March, he no longer had a fever or, I don't know, just really like sick in any way. He just kept getting stronger, and he continued to have chemo. That wasn't going away. And we actually switched therapies with chemo. Like I was really adamant to reduce the amount of chemo that he was getting. So the original plan they put us on, we stopped that. We got advice to do a different one that had a lot less of this one drug called cyclophosphamide, which is really damaging to the system. And we told the doctor, like, we're done with cyclophosphamide. Like, that's it. We're no more. He had already given him like the amount of, if we had been on this plan originally, he had already given Cullen that like more than that dose of cyclophosphamide. So we said, we're done. Like, you gave him more than we should have had in the beginning, should have had over the entire year within like 3 months. So we're done. And he sort of had to agree. He was like, well, I'm not really agreeing, but I won't make you do it. Yeah. So I won that battle, I guess. And then the other battle was radiation. I know I've kind of switched gears here on you, but first he was like pushing surgery really early, and we didn't do that. We just kept getting advice from other doctors, and we also got advice from like 3 naturopaths too, because we just
when you say advice from other doctors, so you just said naturopaths, but it was other conventional doctors you were speaking with as well?
Yeah, we went up to Boston. We actually flew there. I met with just a more informed doctor up there. Like, she was really willing to show us all the data and explain to us that Cullen's case is even more rare than typical, and we only have like 9 children that are similar to him in this study. And so I can't make you do it, because I guess part I left out is that they wanted us to switch over to a higher dose of chemotherapy, a higher regimen. And I was saying, no, I'm not doing. Like, he already sort of put us on the standard, and then he was trying to get us to go to the higher. And I kept telling him, no, I'm not going to do it. And then we went to Boston, and she said, I really am not going to make you I wouldn't make you do it because there's not enough data. It really doesn't show that the amount of toxicity increase doesn't correlate with, the survival rate really, and there wasn't enough data to say that. So she agreed that we don't have to do it. And so our doctor in Orlando didn't make us anymore. Like he dropped it. So that was good.
And so were you getting like scans and diagnostic stuff through this process, and were things going in the right direction while he was trying to get you to up the dose, or what was, where were things at as
Right. I
far
mean,
as like tumor size and all that?
yeah, it was going amazingly well. It was, like I said, it was like a football sized tumor. Within 6 weeks it had shrunk in half. And then 6 weeks later it shrunk in half again. So it was going quickly. And I think it had to do with the vitamin C, because that really kills those cancer cells and like reduces them quickly. So I think that, with chemo and then benefiting, like those two working together to really knock that tumor down. And so I think those two things. And the other thing that we did, I didn't mention, was iTherm. It's like the hypothermia. We put this like wrap thing around his belly, and it brings the temperature up to over 104, and it like somehow jets it into the body, so it goes right to the tumor. So we were doing that also. So I feel like those three things were really like shrinking this tumor down really quickly. And he was doing really well. It was, like I said, he was getting healthier after March. He kept getting stronger. He wasn't going to the doctor to get any drugs, and he didn't have to have any like fever antibiotics and Tylenols and all that stuff. Like we didn't do any of that. We didn't do that weekly antibiotic they wanted us to do. I just said no to all that stuff.
Bactrim.
Yeah, Bactrim. Yeah, I said no to all that stuff. Like, forget it. And actually my husband is not on board, like not fully on board with everything that I'm on board with. Like, not that he's against it, but he's just a little bit more skeptical and hasn't done as much research as I have. So he kind of not really forced me, but it was like, we've got to do the Bactrim, because if he gets, the lung issue, and then I'm going to freak out, and so like, I just was like, okay, I'll give it a try. I don't know what I was thinking. It was a low moment or something. So we did it. And then he got really sick. Like, and I think it's from this. He ended up having to get like 4 blood transfusions. He had a fever, and it was all like right after I gave him this medication. Like, I gave it to him on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. By Friday, he had a fever, and Saturday, Sunday, he had to have all these blood transfusions. So like, that's it. I'm not doing that again. And like after that, I just gotten stronger and stronger. And we were doing other things to help his immune system. We were doing the UVBI, and we were doing this trans factor spray. And I was giving him fresh carrot juice that I would make, and I made all my own food, so I wasn't getting anything processed, no sugar, So I felt like we were doing a lot of things for him to help him, even though chemo would knock his immune system down. We were doing things to build up his immune system naturally.
And was he eating all right? And were you getting everything into him okay? Did you have to, and I forget, he was already eating fairly healthy beforehand? Were there any like, radical changes that you made that he had to like kind of get used to, or was the diet a fairly easy thing?
Yeah, the diet, he was already used to it, because when we switched our diet over, he was 1. So he hadn't really even started eating it. So he's always in this way. But the hard thing is when he was doing chemo, he didn't want to eat as much, and I think his taste buds changed. So some of the things that he really liked, he just wasn't eating as much as he used to. He likes to eat a lot of healthy food, but we weren't getting as much in him as I had hoped, but he was still eating it. And so I just kind of had to be like, all right, he'll be fine. Once he's away from this chemo a little bit, he'll get it back, he'll start eating again. And he did. And I really wanted to try like the NG, the N2, whatever the one that goes.
Yeah, the NG goes through the nose. Yeah.
Yeah, we put it in at one point, and he just ripped it out that night. And I was like, okay, well, I guess this isn't going to work, because I really wanted to get more juice in him and more vitamins in him, because he did struggle with drinking enough and getting all the vitamins in that I want, herbs and stuff that I wanted him to do enough. Like, he did it, but just not as much as I wanted him to, not as much as I've done personally, and like really wanted him to.
Yeah. No, it's tough that age. We were lucky that Ryder did rip his tube out several times, and it always was terrible putting it back in. But like you said, it's if you it was the only way that we could, because Ryder wasn't even eating at all. He was not familiar with the concept of drinking anything besides breast milk at that point. So that was it. That was the only way we were getting anything into him. But so on the supplements and stuff, I mean, maybe not as much as you would have liked, but he was getting it in. Were you just mixing everything into juice, or were you taking capsules, or how exactly were you operating that?
Yeah, I had to mix it in with things. So I'd mix it in with juice or smoothies or like banana ice cream, even sometimes like peanut butter, nut butters on bread, that kind of thing. I would have to kind of hide it basically. I mean, now I'll show him that I'm putting it in certain things, and he's okay with it, but he won't really take anything like just, oh, here, take, like I've seen Ryder do it, like, oh yeah, yum, like Cullen's a little bit more of a challenge in that way, but I've just had to get creative and just try to talk to him about the reasons why it's important. And I think that does help. Like when you sit there and just say, like, this is important, this is helping your body get strong, and it's going to help you feel better, and those kind of things. Like it eventually helps. But yeah, I still have to hide most things. Although, like I said, I do tell him about it, but it's still sort of hidden in the food.
Yeah, no, certainly life changing when Ryder finally learned how to take supplements or just take capsules. Yeah,
That's awesome.
sure makes things a lot easier.
Yes. I hope, yeah, I can't wait for that time when I can even explain to him more of what the importance is and what each thing is really doing for him, and get him to take those. Like my daughter, who's 9, isn't really willing to do it yet either. I mean, I think I could sort of make her, but even she's like, I don't want to do that. That's weird.
So where I don't know, where are you guys today? Is there, I mean, how did the story kind of progress after winning the not more chemo battle and all that, where how'd things play out?
Yeah, going back to that, so we've fought on the surgery timeline. We fought on that, and then we had some sort of bad experiences. We were going to go up to Boston to do the surgery, and then the surgeon wanted us to redo a CT scan, and I don't want the additional radiation. So I told him, we just had it done 10 days ago. Why, what is the purpose behind needing the new scan? I mean, is it going to prevent, like, are we definitely going to have surgery tomorrow if the scan shows? Because there was this small little nodule, they thought, on his lung. And our Dr. Orlando said it's definitely, I forget the word of it now, but it's like when the lung doesn't fully expand, it's that. So he said, it's that. I'm confident you can go forward with surgery. It's not metastasis. You're totally fine. That's what our doctor told us. So we were relieved, and we went to Boston. And then the doctor there, the surgeon there, was trying to say, like, well, we're not fully sure that isn't a metastasis. So we said, well, we're not going to do it, because if you think it's a metastasis, then we're not going to have surgery. There's no point in having surgery if it's metastasized. And he was just, the honest truth, like the reality is that they wanted a new scan for their liability reasons. And I wasn't going to I'm not going to put my son through that because you're a liability. Like, no. And he was completely rude to me. He went off on the fact that I didn't want to do radiation to my son. And he started going off on that. And I'm like, that has nothing to do with surgery. I don't even know what you're talking about. And so it was, and I said, don't you think parents have a right to sort of, decide what they feel is best for their child? And he said, not if you want your son to live. And so I said, okay, thank you. We're not doing this. And I hung up.
Very good.
It wasn't face to face. It was on the phone, thank goodness, because I don't know what I would have done if I was face to face with him. But so that was our bad surgery experience. We came back and we went to the surgeon in Orlando, and University of Gainesville, Shands, and he was amazing. The tumor was completely necrotic. It was baseball size. It wasn't attached to anything. It was exactly what we prayed for. We prayed for every day, like exactly what happened when we were in the surgery. And he calls and he tells me like all these things, and he says God was with us in there. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. I felt it. I prayed for it. It happened. We just had this moment where we couldn't believe that our son is cured. Like that tumor is completely dead. It's gone. There's no evidence of it in his body anymore. Like he's in. And so basically they never found out where it originated from because it wasn't attached to anything anymore. And so that was what we needed to fight against radiation. And even our doctor before had said, if like the best case scenario happens where it's completely necrotic and it's not attached to anything, and we don't know where it originates from, then I won't really make you do radiation, was kind of what he said. And then it happened, and then he was still going to try to make us do it. And I was like, well. And we have research like from Europe that shows that that it's not always necessary in the abdomen, and it's extremely dangerous. I mean, they were going to do a full radiation on his abdomen, like the whole thing. So all of his organs were going to be damaged. He was going to be at least 3 inches taller. It was going to kill like the bone in his some of the growth plates in his spine. So I'm just like, I don't, with the research that we have, with the things that we're doing, with the way the surgery ended, we're not doing radiation, and we fought against it, and we won that battle too. So that was good. So then that was August, the end of August. And then I kept putting on my calendar when I was going to stop chemo. Like, okay, now this point we're going to stop chemo. And we didn't end up, we went through the whole program minus the additional cyclophosphamide they want us to do. So, he never really officially said we were done, but we finished what I considered the full course. And then we left. We said we're going to another doctor. So we went to another doctor after that, because he was he like at one point he just called me, started yelling at me because I told him that I didn't want him to do chemo before surgery within like 2 weeks. I thought that was an adequate, really ideally 3 weeks, but I said, as long as we don't do chemo within 2 weeks, I'm okay. And so he scheduled the chemo within 2 weeks. So I rescheduled the surgery, and then he was like, oh, wait, I want to do it again. I was like, no, I'm just not going. But he would call me and like yell at me and say he's going to call CPS and whatever it's called, DCA, I don't know. So I had at least 3 threats about calling on me, and had some screaming matches with the social worker, and it was not pretty.
Yeah, but you did what you thought was right, or what you knew was right for your kid. Yeah. And that threat is always there, but it doesn't mean you can't push for what you think is right. And yeah, and I mean, look at you now. See, it's what do you know? Things turned out. Things turned out all right. And I was going to ask before, the surgeon that you weren't agreeing with, he was in Boston, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you found the doctor that you did agree with in Boston on the chemo side. Yeah. But then on the surgery side, you had to go somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. He was supposed to be the best, and so that's why we went to him. Even when we met him, we could kind of tell he's a little cocky, but we were like, well, we don't have to really like him. If he's the best surgeon, that's where we need to go. But it turned out it just wasn't the right thing. We ended up in the right place in the end.
Yeah, it's just funny. That's kind of the same thing that happened with us with Ryder needed heart surgery as well, and we moved to Utah to be with an oncologist that we lined up with more. But then we ended up having to fly out to Philadelphia for Ryder's heart surgery, because we felt that was the best choice. So you just keep taking every situation case by case. And so you guys did go through the core, the full course, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, he just continued to do fine. And I mean, you say he got stronger, but I mean, were there any notable side effects, or was he pretty much, I mean, would you have known he was doing chemo? Where'd you guys fall on that spectrum?
Right. I mean, if his hair did fall out, so if his hair hadn't fallen out, you wouldn't have known, because otherwise he was really healthy. I mean, he played, and he had a little bit of the I forget what the word is, but from the vincristine, it causes the neuropathy. So he did have some neuropathy. So if you're familiar with what that looks like, he did have a little bit of that. But it did improve, as time went on, and now it's completely gone. But I mean, otherwise he was really healthy. He was eating well. He was happy. He played. You wouldn't know. He still went to school in the fall. He didn't go in the spring when it first started, but in the fall we put him back in preschool, and he enjoyed it, and he was playing with his friends. And I mean, things were really things just kept getting better for him. He was getting stronger and back to normal and everything. And for me, I was still extremely stressed and overwhelmed and worried all the time, and and always trying to think of what can I do to get him to take more and do more. But he was really doing amazing and doing well, and now he still is. I mean, he's a really healthy boy, and you would never know. Like, some people don't know, which is fine. Like, most people in our community know, because they were so supportive and amazing. We had so much support. And that was one of the best things that came out of this, is that finding people like you and finding the people in our community that really cared and were supportive and reached out and did as much as they could, prayers and food and just support, like emotional. And so I really felt a lot closer to the community, in my community, and even the community, like with parents of kids with cancer overall. I mean, it's just such a very sad sort of place to be, but it's nice to, when you can talk with people about it and like reach out to them and make them, help them feel better, and they help you feel better. And so that's been sort of the positive side of this.
Yeah, no, it's literally one of the worst things that could happen, but at the same time, there's a lot of beauty that comes out of the journey. It's tough to wrap your mind around sometimes.
Yeah. Right.
So that's actually a good, before I forget, speaking of vincristine and neuropathy, just in case anyone is listening or watching now or in the future that is dealing with either of those two things, fellow Rhabdomyosarcoma dad Scott Chiveri actually wrote a really good article dealing with vincristine and neuropathy, and how to mitigate both of those things, as well as a whole ton of other chemo side effects. He's put in a lot of research and has wrote some really, really in-depth articles at mykidcurescancer.com. So definitely check those out. But what else was I? Oh yeah, I should have been asking this all along. I think I just thought to with you for the first time. But speaking of community and everyone coming together and helping out and support and all that, this, once you step foot into the integrative natural side, whatever you want to call it, and start paying for all this stuff, or trying to pay for all of it, you certainly, it's not covered by insurance, that's for sure, and it adds up real quick. Did you I don't know, how did you manage to do everything you did? Did you do any fundraising, get any other creative support, all that good stuff?
Yeah, I mean, because of you, you set me out on the right path to ask for help online. So I did the You Caring site, and that got out to the community here, and they were like amazing. And you sort of went beyond my community, like other people from far out donated to us, which was amazing. That was huge help. And then the church that my sons go to preschool, they had like a fundraiser for us, and then the church donated to us, which is amazing. And then even at like the naturopath person we went to, like they gave us some discounts, and they offered to like put a sign up for Cullen to give donations. And so yeah, people were just willing to help. And then one time we just went into like a juice bar, and this lady just bought us a whole bunch of juices and stuff, because she was just like wanted to help. And we just had just sort of random nice things happen that just kind of at times would just stop me cold. Like I just would like be like overwhelmed with gratitude and at moments, and that helps balance the terror times. So yeah, it's really, but I highly recommend that You Caring that you recommend, which I got from you. That was the bulk of what helped us support Cullen through the alternative therapies that we did.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy what starts coming in once that gets, we got a ton of donations from people we knew, obviously, but some of the biggest donations, like multiple $1,000 donations, were from people we had never met before. It's pretty crazy that happens. That's what I always try to tell people is, people want to help. I mean, there's not many more classes of people that that just any everyday person wants to help more than a parent of a kid with cancer, especially trying to do everything they can, like you were. But you just, you have to put yourself out there, and I'm really glad you did. Did you end up, I forget, did you end up making a video, or what exactly did you do with the You Caring page?
But I was a little nervous and shy about that kind of thing. So I just did a picture, but I would update it, and let people know what's going on with him. So I think I added a few pictures. I think the video might have helped make it a little bit more broad. We didn't have that many people that I didn't know. There was several, but usually it's like a person of a person that I know, but I think if I had done a video, it might have gone a little bit more out there, because then people can see your story and not just read it, and just really get a glimpse of, because I loved your video, and I think it does show what's going on with you guys and the family you are, and what you're trying to do and what you need help to do.
Well, it helps when your cousin's an amateur filmmaker, so
that's awesome.
That worked out.
Yeah.
Is there any I don't know, anything else you want to add about, like, just specific supplements that you guys did that you stood out to you? That I know it's hard to, when people ask me like which things I think made the biggest difference, it's I think it's just the hundreds of things we did all together, but yeah, I don't know, just anything that was really important to you that you haven't mentioned yet, as far as just what you're doing at home, or any other gadgets you bought, or anything like that might spark someone's interest and curiosity that you want to throw out there.
Yeah, we did the glutamine for his neuropathy. That helps. And we did activated charcoal that also helped with that, and with like detoxifying, and helped with the irinotecan that he was taking. Like those two the combination of those two helped against the diarrhea that may happen. Like Cullen never had the diarrhea that can happen with that. And we also have the mega juicer, the Norwalk juicer. We bought that with the funds from You Caring. And we do the alkaline water for him. We did that the whole time, and we still do now. And then I mentioned the juices. What else did we do? We did the Pectosol C and the Honocule.
Good ones. Yeah,
those were good. And then we did like an ionic foot bath for detoxification. Sorry, I should have my list in front of me to remember. We do essential oils. I think those are helpful. We would, diffuse them at night, and I would rub them on his feet and his belly. We did the castor oil packs around the tummy to help detoxify as well. We did a lot of different things, and a lot of it was just from doing research once we were in it, like what do people do, and getting on certain, blogs and stuff, and just talking to people and researching about it. But then also going to the PubMed and doing those research, that to see what's helpful there that was good as well. I did a lot of that in the beginning. If I was not helping Cullen, I was researching what do I need to do, and I was trying everything. So, we also did like salicinium IV, which is really good to like helps expose the tumor to the immune system. And we did a poly-MVA IV, which is really a beneficial one. I think it helped with his energy levels. I think it helps deal with the tumor. It's, now it's hard for me to remember the specifics of why I did each little thing, because I'm picking it so much so quickly. But yeah, I would research it and figure it out, and then we would implement it. But we'd get advice, and we'd make sure, what we want to do. But if I just had the instinct that I think this is something we should do, I would just do it, because the alternative stuff is meant to work with your body. So it's not going to hurt you. I mean, I know there's some cases where, it might thin the blood, or it might this, you kind of have to look at those things. But in general, they're just meant to work with your body. So if they're going to help, they're going to help. And if they're not going to help, they're not going to hurt. So you might as well go for it. And that was my feeling on those things.
Yeah. It's like if you're doing 50 things, and maybe 2 or 3 of them are, suboptimal, and there's maybe not the exact right things you would necessarily want to be happening inside the body, you're probably never even going to know about it, because, those other 48 or 58 things or whatever it is, they're doing what they're supposed to. It's, you're never going to be 100% sure that yeah, you're never going to be sure, but you just, like you did, just go under the instinct that this is all good stuff. And, and that's it. You're pumping good stuff into them, and that's a good thing.
Right.
What else was I going to ask? Oh, so I don't want to pick at it too much, but is your husband like on board with everything now, or has it been you kind of driving everything the whole way? Has he gotten into doing any more research, or just
Yeah.
always seems like it's the husbands, except for me for whatever reason, but
Yeah.
are a little more resistant to all this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not, against it. He's just not fully like in the depths of it. He hasn't researched it, and he really feels like he's kind of on that mindset of, where's the research? I want to see the numbers. I want to see that this is exactly what's going to happen if he takes this, and I'm like, well, that's not how the body works, and they don't have that type of research because they're not going to put it in that kind of money for an herb, like there's so many reasons why, the alternative therapy, maybe aren't done clinically the way that other things are, although they're tested and things. There's definitely a lot of research out there. So that's kind of the argument is he, I want to see this and that. And I talked to him about the reasons why. And so, but he also just hasn't had the time to research as much as I have. So he put a lot on me. Like, I'm relying on you because you've done research. So I'm just going to like give it to you, which, I was willing to take, but at the same time, it's frustrating because I'm like, I want you to help. Like, I want to be on like seeing eye to eye and all these things. And we don't, like, even today, we still have these like arguments about, well, I think I need to do it this way. And he wants to like, he'll look, well, I'll give you a few days, but if it doesn't work, then, and I'm just like, well, it doesn't work like that, like, it's frustrating. But he's not against it. So he is supportive, and he's happy that I make our food from scratch, and he's happy that we juice and drinks green smoothies, and he's healthy, he works out and he eats well. And so he just doesn't use, he'll still go out to lunch every day and stuff. So, he's not like 100% on board with me, but he's close.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, I mean, I assume he's working and such, and, bringing in money to, even if he doesn't fully agree with everything or is behind it, it's still happening one way or the other. So what the heck? Mm-hmm. That's really cool, Angie. And so today Cullen is happy, healthy, wouldn't know anything would ever happened, that sort of thing.
Oh yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he looks amazing. He's doing really well. And we try to continue doing some things from home. We don't go to the naturopaths anymore. So we're not doing like the hyperbaric chamber anymore and the IV drips. But I do, still try to get the herbs and supplements in them. And we do like at night I'll diffuse essential oils, and he'll do like a grounding mat. And he sees an acupuncturist, like once a month or so, and does like some laser energy work. And we just try to eat healthy and stay positive and get him out active, and he's doing amazing, doing really well.
That's pretty cool.
Like he's cured, he's done. Like even our oncologist now is like, he's cured, he's good. Like he's doing amazing. And the new oncologist is more supportive of what we did and why we decided on not doing radiation. And so it was the right choice to move on to him. It's much more relaxed, and he's been doing this for like 40 years. So he's so that's even makes it better because he's seen all this and is still supportive of what we're doing, which is great.
That's awesome. Yeah. Angie, thanks for coming on. Do you maybe want to take us out with just, if there's any kind of final thought or sentiment that you'd like to pass on to parents that are, a little earlier on in the process trying to figure all this out, that you might want to take us out with? That'd be a good way to go.
Sure. I would suggest if you have the funds, to seek out a naturopath to just help you figure out ways to get these supplements in your child. And maybe they'll have the IVs available to you or the hyperbaric chamber. So try to seek that out if you can. And if you can't financially, then definitely do a U-caring, which I think you should do anyway. Do some type of U-caring thing, because that really helps support us in finding, the dollars to do those things, and go with your instincts, and don't feel bad when, your child isn't always taking all the supplements that you want him or her to. Just try your best and stay, light on yourself and your child, and know that they're trying their best as well. Because I remember how I felt like he's got to do it, all of this. He's got to do it all right now and all the time, and it doesn't work that way. But he's still doing amazing, and the things that we did do worked and helped him, and it got the result that we were looking for. And we feel that he's cured and getting healthier and going to be a healthy adult. So just stay positive and relaxed, I guess, as much as you can.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned that about, not beating yourself up too much anyway. It's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, that was always, I always felt like the worst person in the world every time Ryder threw up his supplements, or we couldn't get into him or his feeding tube clogged, or, whatever. But it's just about, coming back the next day or the next hour, or whatever it is. And you just keep going. You just keep going. Angie, I almost forgot. Do you have any kind of, does Cullen have a page that you'd like to direct people to? Or I don't know. Is there anything that you would like to, we'd like to point people to before we leave?
No, I don't have anything like that, but I would say if anybody's interested, to talk to me, I'm happy to talk to anybody that was wondering what really, what specific things that I do, or what naturopaths that I talk to, or any of that stuff. If you want to just give them my email, it's fine, and I can talk with them. But we don't have anything like that. I really want to eventually do something to help, more people. But right now we haven't actually set up anything yet.
Very cool. No, I'd appreciate you throwing that out there. Well, I don't know. Yeah, maybe throw your email in the show notes, or just your Facebook page, or figure something out.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Awesome, Angie. Thanks so much for coming on. It's good to see you and talk to you again.
Brian, I appreciate it. It was fun.
Bye.
All right. Bye.